Thank you so much, Emma. I'm going to ask a quick question to those that are on the call. What do you think is the most important thing to know before you start a business? Just drop in um, your comments, your thoughts. What do you think is the most important thing to know before you start a business? This one is one of those where I will not start until I see answers. So, what do you think is the most important thing to know before you start a business? You can come off mute if you are brave enough and you want to share, but you can also type out the message and we can get into it. Okay, I've got some. There's one which says the demand for the product or service, your target market, what problem your business is going to solve. That's very interesting. That's very good. Margaret says what problem you are going to solve. That's excellent. Anyone else have any other comments or thoughts before that, before we get going? So going once, twice, gone. So my biggest, yeah, very much, Letitia, why your business exists. So one of the things I think is one of the most important things to know when you start a business is very much as I agree with you, the problem that your business is going to solve, the target market, demand for the product. But a lot of all of this comes from, I think, a really critical part of the business is your potential customer. Who is that person that you are looking to solve? Your business model, the way I think about it is that it is the way you are turning a problem into revenue or into income for your business. And that problem exists in the world, but it is somebody who has that specific problem in the world. Um, you might think your product or service as being a solution to a problem, but the reason why someone would buy your particular problem, product, or service is because there is a specific job that they want done to solve the problem that they have. I like to think of it like this is that, um, and it relates to the conversation we had last week, is that when a customer has a problem, there are multiple ways in which that customer might solve that problem. So it might be one single problem that you might know very well, but there are multiple alternatives to solving that problem for a customer. And every one of us, when we are doing a business, the more you know about your problem, the better it is. But you need to go a step further, which is knowing the customer. In order for you to segment your customer base, you segment your business, you must also understand the unique customer that you're going for. The way I think about it is that a problem area has got multiple different solutions that you can have. A good example of this is if you have a lot of trash at your house, there might be, or a lot of rubbish at your house, there might be a lot of different solutions that you can employ. One solution could be you could just burn everything, just build a big pit and you burn everything that is in your trash. That's one problem. Another problem is that you might choose to recycle all the trash that is within your yard. So finding new ways to use it. Another solution to that particular problem would be a waste removal company that will come and remove waste. The solution that you pick for a particular problem is going to be based upon your particular requirements in terms of solving the problem. All of those are solutions, but you as an individual have got very specific requirements to solve that problem. One of those things that we talk about when we're talking about ways in which you can solve a problem is what we would call your requirements, or even what we would call as a minimum level of satisfaction, or what are the different aspects that you use to evaluate a potential solution to your problem. So today we're going to talk a little bit about your business model, but I want to start off in a place that I find is very important when looking at your business model. So at the core of your business model, um, which is this, is your core value to customers, which that is made up of, number one, what is the target group, their value proposition that you have, plus an unfair advantage. That is what makes up your offering at the core of it. But when we look at this particular group of people, is your target group, there are certain things that you need to know about it. So when we are building a product or a solution for whether it is a service or it is a physical product, there is something that I would call an ICP. An ICP is an ideal customer profile. Last week, you heard me say that there are some things where it is okay for your product not to be for everyone. And when we are kind of doing this and going through this exercise for building out your business model, the one thing I want us to do today and to kind of focus our energy and focus on today is building your ideal customer profile. Your business model doesn't matter if your ideal customer profile isn't there, because you are building your business model as a way of extracting revenue and income for your business from your target customer or from your ideal customer. When you are thinking about that whole entire universe, the channels that you are going to have, the resources that you have, your brand messages, your relationships, all of these things are your partners, your resources, your costs, your pricing, the pattern or your profit formula. All of this doesn't matter until you have got a specific ideal customer profile. So today I'm going to take you through some of the things I would uh, start thinking about when building an ideal customer profile. So we know that one of the most important things that we have is the problem that your customers have, right? And I'm going to kind of take you through my process. It's not a perfect process, but it is a good process. Um, so let's take anything. So where I usually start off with, I've got very little slides. That's just a quirk of being a presenter and working through these things. Is number one, the very first thing I want you to do when you have a problem, is what we want to do is want to carry out what is an opportunity or a market sizing exercise. Um, for those that are in business, uh, show me by a show of hands anyone that has done any market sizing before. Uh, has anyone done market sizing or even heard of the idea of doing market sizing before? Anyone? I don't see any comments, any thoughts there. So market sizing basically is a process where you try and figure out what is the size of the opportunity that you have. Uh, does anyone want to come off mute so we can give an example and just tell me very briefly about your business? What do you do? And we can try and do a market sizing for your business. Does anyone want to try so that we have a practical example and we can take it from there? Or you can write in the chat box there. Kirsten, do you want to uh, share a little bit about your business and we can do a market sizing there? Or is it
Good
that you're
evening, everyone.
yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. My personal private business is construction. I do construction consultancy, which usually involves construction of houses, designing of housing plans, and costing of existing housing plans. That is the main line of the business. It's basically construction.
Okay. So how would you go about doing a market sizing activity for something like this? Does it sound like an easy one for people on the call? Does it sound like an easy business to do market sizing for? Uh, Emma does not think that this one is a good one. Anyone else? Does anyone think that this is an easy one or a hard one? This is generally a tough one, isn't it? On the surface, there isn't very much in terms of details that you can use to do market sizing, but we're going to try and do it, right?
Okay.
So to do market sizing for this business, which is a construction business that they do, I would maybe put it as quantity surveying, isn't it, Custom? That's the technical term.
Yes, you could.
So what we want to try and do, number one, is we want to try and find some information or some data that is produced, that can be produced to size up our market. Number one, we want to try and find out, the core thing is building plans. This could be that you are doing the whole of Uganda, you are doing a specific area, or you are doing just Kampala or a specific city. So the first thing I would do is I want to try and find out how many people are building houses in Uganda every month, right? So that's the first thing, is finding out what is the number of people that would build houses every month. That becomes your first initial input. So you can size your market by the number of people that are building houses every month, and you can put it there. That would be a number and say, there are 30,000 people that build houses every month. So that's my target market. I can say my total opportunity there is maybe 30,000 people, 30,000 projects every month. That's the market size. Very rough figure. You can go a step further and say, based upon how much I charge customers, which is, I could say 5,000, 10,000, whatever the case might be, I'm going to multiply by that. I like to have a dollar figure or a number figure, which says there are 30,000 people that do plans every month. I charge $10,000. So, 30,000 times, times 10,000. Then you have a dollar figure. That's your market size. These are very rough figures. But within that 30,000, there are a group of people that you want to target. So remember, we talked about the ideal customer profile, right? And depending on where you are going or what you are doing, you can go a step further to finding your ideal market. So a process that I like to do is market segmentation, right? So we have a general market size, but we want to segment that market in order for us to be able to build up an additional a customer profile from there. So the next step is market sizing, market segmentation. So of those 30,000 people that are building houses every month, do you think everyone is going to need this service? Right? Not everyone, right? If you have a two-bedroom house, are you going to need castings services? Yes or no? Maybe, maybe not. Depends, right? Um, when is it critical for you to understand the cost of building before you start building? In what scenarios or cases? Casting, do you want to answer that question or not? Or maybe you can give it to someone. Casting, in what situations is it most important for you to know the cost of your house before you start building?
Uh, Professionally, it's always important to know the cost of the house, especially if you're building the design or the plan. Let me just use the word plan that you have never done before, or if you're doing them before but different plan from what you have, which means so many variations that are going to happen. Is also cost variations that happen because of design. Because someone can have, let me use an example. Someone can have a three-bedroom house, which they did in Sechirinya, and it had bedrooms of, say, 3 meters by 3 meters size, standard size bedrooms. Then some other person
Mm.
would want to build a three-bedroom house still in Chirinya, and they are having bedrooms of like 5 meters by 4 meters, which is bigger than what the other one had. So every time the design is different from whatever is there, you would need to know what the actual costs are going to be for your particular specific project. I don't know
Right.
whether that answers the question.
Answers the question. So,
Yeah.
in general, as long as you have got a building plan and everyone there is your customer. So we could segment it, right? Could segment it a little bit further. We can say we are going to segment our market based upon the size of the house, right? Common measurement within house design is usually using the square meters of the house. So let's say maybe we've got a house which is 30 square meters, 40 square meters, 50 square meters, 200 square meters. You can use that as a sizing for that. And then you can drill a little bit further and be able to kind of specify and to get a little bit deeper. So that would be your segmentation, which is based upon the size of the house. I'm using a very rudimentary kind of way, and then you go one level down and you put that together. So, as a business owner, this is one of the most critical decisions that you will make. Is once you have your sizing there, is to pick. You can do this at any point, at any time. You can pick customers that you feel might be the best for you. I'll give you an example of this. Let's say out of those 30,000 customers, 50% of those are customers that are building houses that are, you know, below 100 square meters. So that could be one. So you say, I'm going to go for this particular group of customers that because they are the largest number. So you are making a decision. This is one of the most critical decisions you make in a business. If you've got a market size, you are choosing a particular group of customers. I kind of talked about this before, and I'll share a little bit about this now. It's a decision that we would call a where to play decision. So this particular decision, you are deciding what kind of customers you want to offer a solution to. So you can say, I've segmented this particular market. I'm going to look at customers that have got houses that are less than 100 square meters, right? So that's the market that you have chosen. You've got your sizing. You can go back and say, what is the market size of this? There are maybe 15,000 plans that are done at this particular size. And each one of those particular plans, I can make $10,000, right? When you're creating your business model, one thing you want to ask is an important question is, what are the alternatives for people who are building houses under 100 square meters? Who, where do they find information on costing for their business or for their building? Kirsten, I'll ask you because you are our test customer, you are a test case here. Where do people find information or quotes for their particular houses?
Thank you
Where do
very
they get their
much.
pricing? Yeah.
Uh, thank you very much. Now, as you were talking, the section as actually through actions within the market. So as we assume, let's say 30K or 30,000. 30,000 is the market size. And
Yeah.
assuming 40% of the market size, which is actually very possible, constructs their houses without a plan. They
Mm,
have land and they have an idea of how the building should look like. So already the 40% of the people that are constructing every month is is clients that we don't have. We don't have access to them because they don't follow the typical planning and designing and everything.
mm,
So out of the 60%, there is like there's like a 30% again,
yeah.
still percent is there are people that actually approach a design contractor. They approach someone and they say, know how can I help design it for me, quantify it, bio and everything. Then
Hmm.
that gives the as the demand that we have with only not approach design step. You're there, you have an idea of interest, a home or build a business. Then you're like, okay, I want to see what kind of building can be put in this plot that I have. So
Yeah.
that person to an they ask for them maybe how it will look. Then the person gets it and then okay, I think this is one. Now I want how this is me. That's the percent.
I think we lost Kirsten. Um, but from what Kirsten was describing, and this is actually very, very important, the process that he was going through, um, in terms of going down further, is you can see some of these decisions, you're narrowing the market, right? We did some segmentation, but he's narrowing it further. And what he's using is, what are the requirements of that particular customer that will make sense. You see, all of these things, and I will highlight to you all the things that Castin was talking about in terms of their customer, or the type of customer that he is going for, or the type of people that have got all these situations. These are people that are going to affect even how you do your marketing. It affects how you select your marketing messages. Who do you offer? If you are going to go and you say, okay, I'm going to partner, the type of people I partner with. Do I partner with design firms that are doing only purely design? And I do quantity, I do costing for the plans for those customers so that those particular design firms can offer a cheaper product to a customer. So instead of going to a one-stop one-stop center where they do the quantity surveying for you as well as the design. Someone can choose an architect or a design that they have from somewhere else, and they can go to to a quantity surveyor to give them the cost somewhere else. So your entire business strategy is already starting to change and to evolve. So a key part of understanding that uh, particular process is sort of what I would say, competing solutions. I think Casting was also talking about what they do. What some of these people do is that traditionally, some of them go for organizations that do, specifically design and costing. But this is what is so important. What is, when we're talking about value proposition, is what makes going to a specialized quantity surveying professional or a quantity surveyor more important, what makes that more valuable for a customer than anything else. And when we're thinking about that, we are now starting to think about what are the specific criteria that would make this particular solution the best solution for that particular person. What are the specific characteristics of the customer that would make my product as a solution to that person's problem better than all the alternatives? And that's where we talk about things like value proposition design. And that is at the core of it. I know there's a temptation always, and this is what I want us to get away from in order for us to build sustainable businesses, is not just doing everything just because somebody else is doing it. Whatever the solution or product that you have, no matter what is the reason for you to have started a business, right? Whether it's because you want to make more money, you want to make more revenue, I want you to be best positioned to take and to make more revenue based upon your unique value and offering to a group of people in the market so that your business is sustainable long term. When we start a business, majority of the times you say, I saw that people are doing XYZ. Yes, very good. Size the market, do segmentation, find the people where the value or the product that you produce is going to be better than anybody else in terms of meeting their particular unique problems that they have, that you become the logical choice in that space. Every time, as you are walking through the streets of Kampala, you see people selling products. And majority of the times you see that everybody is selling the exact same product. There isn't any differentiation. Sometimes there isn't even any price differentiation. Everybody's selling the same number of matoke at the same price, at the same quality. There is no differentiation. And when you are in a market where there is very low differentiation and there isn't any price differentiation, it is brutal, right? It means there is no customer loyalty, there is no repeat business, there is no ability for your business to grow and to become bigger and better because fundamentally your product is not positioned in the right place, right? But that is what I want us to try and figure out because our business model helps us to position ourselves in a way that makes our business sustainable long term. Every time when we are even applying some of the innovation techniques that we were learning last week, all of those things, it is to help improve our business model. So when you are thinking about your value proposition, a core part, as I said, is sort of how are you different? And there are three things that I find very important as we're building out your ideal customer profile is understanding what are their jobs to be done. So your main job to be done might be, you know, get pricing for my business, but they are for my house build. But there is an emotional job to be there. You know, what are the things that are driving your particular decision or this particular decision? What are some of the emotional drivers of purchasing? Uh, Fear can be a driver for making a purchase decision. Um, it doesn't sound very good, but it is also one of the reasons why an emotional job that you are afraid. You are afraid that you might not have enough money to finish the job or to finish building. You might be afraid that the construction will be too expensive, that you don't have money. What are the key steps, the functional jobs that people are looking to do is number one, maybe they want to find the cost of their job, right? The cost of building. But they also want to know, go a step further. I had a project recently that I was part of, and then I said to someone, I want you to break it down for me in phases because it sounds very, very massive if you just give me a quote and say it will cost you 500 million Ugandan shillings to complete this particular project. But I want you to break it down for me. Let's break it down in phases. That's also another thing that you can do, right? And then also number two is like thinking about the different structures. How do you make sure you are making efficient use of transport, of resources on the land, reusing material? What are some of the things that a customer can provide? For you as a quantity surveyor, as casting might be, you are now looking at some of the hidden needs of the customer, breaking it down into stages, looking at alternative materials, looking at alternative suppliers for different products. If you are now giving me a quote where you say you can break it down in these particular phases and stages for your business, and on top of that, here are some providers that can provide you additional material, the value that you are providing as a business suddenly skyrockets because now you've understood what are the jobs that the customer wants to do, what are some of their fears, what are some of the challenges that they have. So you've now designed your value proposition. You've gone from, um, understanding that this is just me providing people with costings for them to build their house, but now you've tweaked it now to address certain key variables. We talked about ideal customer profile, right? Um, we've got some of the jobs that are, customers want done, but you can also be able to add something a little bit of spice or a little bit of insight that would help your ideal customer profile work very well. So one of the things that Casting was saying was that these people might not have, funding, or they might not have their finances for them to do that immediately. So you know that these people might be, constrained in terms of cash that they have. So you can actually add and think about, can I offer payment plans for this particular group of people? Can I also go a little bit a step further, which is to say, you know what? I only want to cost houses that are 100 square meters or less in terms of the space that they have. You're doing that because you're making a conscious decision to say, I want to only serve this group of customers because my business model, this is the key thing, is I want to serve as many people as possible with my service. Because if I am doing 10 or 20 uh, quotes for or projects a month or a week, that meets my revenue goal, right? These are things and decisions that you are making that you would put in your business model. But I want to, as I said, I want to focus on the value proposition, right? This is a jobs to be done statement. This is so important. This is so key. This is the reason why you need to speak to your customers. You want to be able to generate as many jobs to be done statements. They seem a little bit disconnected from here, but what you will notice is that there are a lot of parts here that actually help, which is, who is that person? As a person looking to build a house, I want to get, they want to either reduce or the cost or increase something. I want to reduce the likelihood that my construction project will fail, and this product or process, hiring a quantity surveyor for myself, helps me to do XYZ, right? This one might be, as a parent, I want to increase the safety of my child when they start driving for the first time. As a home builder, I want to reduce the cost uh, to myself when building my house. So I want to get a price. I want to decrease the probability that I will not complete my house when I am building my house. Yes, Casting.
Thank you very much. Actually, now that I'm seeing this job statement, I think the job statement for the kind of services that we offer would be something like, as your consultant, I want to reduce the likelihood of cost overruns happening on your project, which will eventually affect your overall budget. If we lock in that this is going to be 100 million worth of house, if we say your bedroom house is going to cost you 100 million, I want to guarantee to you that there is going to be no overruns to shoot this budget beyond 100 million. And from the previous slide that you had shared, which was about the proposition, there is the emotional side, which usually these are things that affect the overall of the project, is the quality. Someone will want aluminium doors, steel doors, which emotion, and these emotional, they happen so much when you're now for us, we are when we even the emotional drivers, the type of bulbs or someone will going to be all the type of toilets
Yeah.
that there's the indoors using, and there's one that costs and one that at 200 and they pay. The one which is billion is very and is really expensive to install. So these are all emotional things because
Uh, we lost Casting again. Network. um, so the way Casting was framing it is a good example. It's a customer, it's sort of like a customer job, but you're sort of putting it in a value proposition perspective. 99% of the time, your customer job to be done can be your value proposition, right? And what makes it very, very powerful, uh, I spent a lot of time in marketing, is when you change it from being in your voice and into the voice of the customer. This is the reason why we take a jobs to be done approach from it. So a customer statement, a customer job to be done statement can become your value proposition, and you can use it repeatedly over and over and over again in your design of your value proposition. So the one thing I always ask people to do is to speak to customers, even people that you have already had, that have already, you know, purchased from you, people that have already paid you money. Those are the people that you want to speak to and ask, why did you buy this product? What were some of the things that were going through your mind? I will send, actually, I've got a very good set of interview questions that you can ask customers to help uncover the job to be done. If you have an existing business, you can go and find uh, customers that you've already spoken to, that have already purchased your product, and interview them, have a discussion with them, find out that job to be done. If you do not have a business and you are looking for customers, um, ask. As we remember, we talked about competitive alternatives, right? Last time I did mention competitive alternatives. People that use different products, an existing product, and say, what are you trying to achieve? Go through the same interview guide when you see them using the product. And that will help you design a job to be done. Jobs to be done are not just for product businesses or service businesses or new businesses or anything fancy. You can do a job to be done for your restaurant. And what a lot of people miss out when they are doing some of their jobs to be done, some of their um, business proposals, is understanding the trade-offs that they are making for their business as you build up your business model. A huge part of your business model canvas is going to be on your costs, on how much you are going to charge people, all of these things. This all comes from how you speak and understand your customer. One thing you might find is that maybe in your market, in education, there is a lack of high quality education. So you want to give and offer a high quality education experience for parents of children, but you might want to say, okay, I'm going to think about how do I deliver this low cost, for example. So let us say I'm going to reduce the number of teachers. I'm going to add technology into the process. I'm going to do A, B, and C that will help me reduce cost. I am going to use different methods to improve the quality of the education that is provided. I am going to use an existing syllabus, for example. I am going to use a homeschooling approach, for example, to help deliver this quality education at a reduced price. So all of those things are things that you can build into your product based upon your understanding of the customer and understanding what are some of the trade-offs that you can do to build out your business model. So I will send out these particular resources. I will send out an interview guide as a way of just anchoring where we are. I know we didn't touch the business model, but these are the things that we would start off with as the very basis. Everything else are decisions that are made based upon your value proposition, are based upon your customer, are based upon your target market. All of these things revolve around the decisions that you make around your value proposition. This is the reason why last week I said it's okay for you not to be for everyone. Because once you've got your specific people and you build your value proposition for that particular group of people, your business becomes oriented and fixed on that particular customer group, on those particular businesses, on those particular parents. And that's what makes you successful. At the end of the day, your benefits that you offer to your customers are going to, you can't provide benefits to everyone. No business provides benefits to everyone, right? It's only a specific person in a specific time that they will find benefits for. Um, Somebody once said that, I'm having issues with pricing. People are not willing to purchase my product. The majority of the times when you have that is that the people that you are targeting don't see the benefits and don't have the pain point that makes paying you that particular amount of money a worthwhile thing to do. As we're talking and Castin was giving some of the things, is that his product or his service goes beyond just producing a quote and giving you an estimate. It's more a bespoke service. Having a cost overrun on $100 million house, $100 million house, is very different than having a cost run for a 500 million shilling house. Those are two different scenarios. Because if I cost run on a 100 by 10% on a 100 million shilling house, that's 10 million. Someone can stomach that. But if I'm doing a 10% cost overrun on a 500 million house or a billion shilling house, that's a very different value. So the cost that I'm willing to pay to prevent a cost overrun on a 100 million shilling house is very different than how much I'm willing to pay to prevent a cost overrun on a 500 million shilling house. So if a customer comes and says to me, as a quantity surveyor, I'm going to charge you 10 million shillings. For somebody with a 100 million shilling house, you say, no, I can't spend 10 million to prevent a 10 million overrun. But for somebody who is building a house for a billion shilling and looks at it and says, to pay 10 million to prevent a possible 100 million shilling overrun, that is something I'm willing to do because the cost of the service becomes valuable. So just there on just Casting's particular business, because he's there and he was so generous in giving us his business, is very specifically your pricing, for example, can now be based upon that. a key insight in your marketing messages. I don't know if anybody has ever done this survey in Uganda, but you can actually do it and see by what percentage most building projects overrun the cost that they were initially given. You can find maybe it's a 10% cost overrun, 20% of cost overrun, 30% cost overrun. 50% of houses in Uganda had a 10% cost overrun. That is now very specific to you. Most people don't even know that. If you're in the construction sector or you're a customer building a house, I might not even know that. This now is very specific to marketing. If you're in a social media, you are doing social media. If you do that survey and you provide those details, most people might not know it. And now people are starting to consider your service or your product not as an expense, but a vital part of making sure that they can complete their project on time, on budget, and that 10 million that you are charging becomes very small based upon the size of their project. But I will stop here. And tomorrow we'll talk about benefits. We'll talk a little bit about features if necessary. But I would like us tomorrow to go into the depths of the business model canvas and start thinking about some of the decisions that you are making on your value proposition and how they show up in your business model canvas. And we'll try and do a practical example. So if you are a person with a business, be come prepared to answer questions, come prepared to offer your business as an experiment, because ultimately going through this process is how you become better as a business person, because we can actually do a practical exercise on your business. But yeah, I will end there. I don't know if anybody has any particular questions. If not, I'll hand it over to Emma to close us off. But I wanted to get any questions that anyone might have, any comments before we call it a day.
Wow. Wow. Like, when you're teaching, I raised my eyes at that time. I'm like, wow, this would have gone on and on, but and like I said, time moves in its own pace. CEOs, please join me and just give a round of applause to Matthew for that delivery that he has just made in a very, 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 very confined time. Hey, am I audible the other side? Ladies
Yes, I
and
think we
gentlemen,
can hear you.
these people are funny. You mean he has not delivered to you people? You don't want to even clap for him? Eh, ha. All right.
People are multitasking during the day, so I understand. So some will have to go and rush back to the device and see where the applause is. So
Anyways, I hope we have picked something out of what Matthew has just delivered. A lot of insights, a lot of things that he has taken us through. Matthew, I had a question while you were going through the market size. I was wondering, can a business have like a primary market and then a secondary market? I just noted it down. I said, is that possible or is not possible?
so
Um,
it's possible, but I will caveat it and put it like this. When you have a primary market and a secondary market, you might choose to not actively pursue your secondary market
okay,
there and then. So
okay.
for you, for example, you have a business that is sort of multifaceted, right? So you can
Mm,
design a value proposition for everyone. So what I would say to you, for example, is you can split your business into what I would call like business areas and have a primary market, a primary customer, an ICP for that business, an ICP for the other area, an ICP for the other area, and then take it from there. And then as you say, as I said, like have a primary market and a secondary market. I could give Naomi's example, which is she might say, my primary market is Uganda, but my secondary market is in the US, right? But that just shows your prioritization of your business and how you are doing it. So that's a way in which you can um, do some of that segmentation. You can be able to use geography as a segmentation or use it in terms of how you prioritize your markets. And a good rule of thumb is that specifying how much effort or how much revenue you expect from either your primary or secondary markets can also help with just some of the logistics as a thought exercise if you have that.